Hello, welcome back to the studio here in Northumberland. And today I'm going to do a watercolour painting, but a very simple one. It's going to be a snow scene in keeping with the season that's about to hit us. I'm going to use very few colours and a very simple outline drawing to start with. So watch this. I've got my normal IKEA pencil and got a hill coming up here. I'm not pressing on too hard. Another one there. That's a couple of hills. Now, at the base of that lot, we're going to have some bushy bits. That's a technical term, bushy bits. Leave a gap in them here and there. And now a couple of taller trees. At that kind of distance, you don't want loads of details. Keep it simple. And as I say, it's going to be a snow scene, so I don't start drawing a canopy of leaves on top of there. More bits here. And a couple of taller trees here. Just a squiggly line going all the way across. I don't need any reference for this, any photographs or anything like that, because this is somewhere that I know really well. It's literally a mile away from my house. Now here, another hedge, which is, I'm pressing on a little bit stronger. This one's closer. And I'm leaving a gap in it there for a gate there. An open gate. Here's a little tip. If you're putting a gate in a painting, always open it. Don't close it like that. So you've got a gap. Allows the eye in. Allows the viewer to go into the picture rather than blocking it off. Sounds silly, but it's the truth. Trust me, I'm an artist. Here's a path in the snow. Sorry, a path in the snow. And now we're going to have a bigger tree about there. And a little bit more detail in this, more boughs. Don't start fiddling about with too many twigs. And there might be a few more bits and pieces in this painting that I'm not drawing, that I'll just make my mind up and paint them later on in the picture. So I have another one there, yeah, one there. And that'll do, drawing done. I'm going to start off with the sky first of all, obviously. And for this one, I want to create a really good strong atmosphere with the sky. So I'm going to make a good, strong, heavy sky, practically stormy sky. I'm using my 1.5 inch wash brush for this. Aquafine brushes again, and as you can tell, I also use these for my acrylics. So here's my Aquafine number 1.5 inch flat and loads of water. The paper I'm using, by the way, tape's coming off. The paper I'm using is the Lantern Rough, 140 pounds weight. And despite the amount of water that I put on here, it's not going to buckle and wobble and mess me about. There might be a slight bulge in the middle, but when I take the tape off, it's going to dry out totally flat. And I don't pre-stretch or mess about with my paper. I just whack loads of water on there. Lantern Rough, 140 pounds, lovely paper. And again, mop up along the bottom. So, I'll have a little bit of raw sienna in the bottom there. The paints I'm using as well are Aquafine paints, students' quality paints, strictly speaking. but they're good and strong. And these days, Dale Around the Aquafine paints have got natural pigment in them, which is unusual for student quality paint. So they'll give you plenty of good strong colour. There, and now ultramarine blue, plenty of water into this. And we'll have some of that over here. What you've got to remember when you're doing a big pre-wet like this is it's going to dry nearly 50% lighter on you. So allow for that. A bit more of that up there actually. Allow for that. So if you want it good and strong, at this point, make it really strong. Mop up. Oops. Still had some glue in my paint there. Mop it off. Right, so. Now, ultramarine blue, and this time with burnt sienna into it. Ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. There. And remember what I said about dark. Well, this is very dark. Oh, scarily so. Coming up there. Now, if you saw a sky like this coming at you, you'd run. Or if you painted a sky like this, you'd run. Bringing it across a little bit more there. Now, wash my brush out, squeeze out, and mop up again. And again, wash out, squeeze out, mop up. I'm just letting this run for a little bit. If this were a clear, blue, fluffy, clouded sky, you wouldn't want it running down. But for an overcast sky, it's good to get those clouds coming down to the hills. Wash out my brush again, squeeze out, and just with a clean damp brush, all I'm doing, take some paint out. Another one here. And again, wash out, squeeze out. I'm washing out and squeezing out the brush in between clouds so that I'm taking paint out rather than just moving it around. Does that make sense? I know what I mean. Over there. And extend that cloud across there. If you've got plenty of water on, you've got the time to fiddle about and mess about a little bit. But don't fiddle about for too long. Again, mopping up. And again, mop up. Just sucking paint out there. I don't like that bit there, so I'll take another cloud out. Yeah, that's all right. And again, wash out, squeeze out, and mop up again. Keep cleaning it, look. This paper is good and sturdy. It will take a lot of messing about. And it's well sized. It's internally sized. It's called internally sized. You know how watercolour paper is sized to take the paint? Well, quite often on paper, watercolour paper, one side is sized. This side is internally sized. So both sides are right to paint on. Mopping up again, and now I'm just going to let that dry. Now my sky's dried. Can you see what I was talking about? How much lighter that's dried to when I put it on. Remember that ultramarine blue and burnt sienna mix? It was scarily dark. Look how much it's lightened off. So now I'm going to my 3/4 inch brush, and I've got ultramarine blue and burnt sienna again. More blue and a lot of water into this. I'm just going to start off with the hills. Coming in here. Bring them down and leave some white bits showing here and there as well. Like I said, it's a snow scene, but you don't want too much just white. Just white is boring. Now, clean damp brush, I'm just going to wash out, squeeze out, and move that paint around slightly. Bring that down. And again, still with ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Slightly stronger this time, touch more burnt sienna into it. There. And coming down here. A couple of bits coming here. I'm just really following my pencil marks in the hills. Again, wash out, squeeze out, clean damp brush, move it around. Soften edges here and there. And again, a little bit more. Water. This is just a clean damp brush, look, washing out, squeeze it once. Just move it around. And again, still with water, leaving it light on the top, especially there. This little bit here, this business about once you make a mistake in watercolours, I haven't made a mistake, but I want that cleaner. And people think that once you make a mistake, you can't put it right. It's a nonsense, just wash out, clean it. Look. See? And remember that sky, which came into the hills, is now well and truly dried. But I'm just taking it out again. And again. My brush a bit more, take it out. You can always put it right with watercolours. Just don't panic. Shall I have a bit there? Yeah, I've put that on there, and look, it's dried. Clean it off. And again, go back in. Clean it off again. You can just take it out with watercolours. That'll do. Now, just while that's drying a little bit, because that's still wet, I'm going to go to these distant hedgy, bushy bits. Hedgy, bushy bits, you know what I mean. And for that, I'm going to use my number 8 round brush. Again, aquafine. And again, you can see that I use that for my acrylics as well, by the handle. So, as I keep saying, these brushes will stand any amount of hammer. And again, it's ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, but a little bit darker this time. Still heavier on the blue, but darker than we've used it so far. And all I'm doing for these brushes, look, is dabbing on. That's a little bit too strong. More water into it. That's better. Just tapping. Leave a few bits of white showing here and there. Leave gaps here and there as well. And get another big gap there. And tap. All the way across. And another big gap. All I'm doing, I'm not painting twigs in the bushes. Don't go into detail. All I'm doing is just dabbing on. These are a long, long way off. Now, a little bit of burnt sienna, just to warm them up ever so slightly. Bit of burnt sienna there, look. Plenty of water into it. And while that lot is still wet, just tap on it a little bit. You don't want it everywhere, just a few bits. That'll do. Clean damp brush now. Just tap on where I've put the burnt sienna. That's just with a damp brush with clean water. There. Now, while all that lot is still wet, with my rigger brush, number 4 rigger brush, again ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. But again, a little touch darker, a bit more burnt sienna into it. A little bit less water into it. What I'll do with my rigger brush is these taller trees. A few bits here. And we've got another one here. Actually, they've got 2 there. Now, even though these are taller, I'm not fiddling around with loads of twigs. All I am going to do now, with that same colour mix, go back to my round brush, my number 8 round brush, and just go into the palette with the side of the brush, look, like that. Not like that, just like that. And now, tap on and drag it downwards slightly. See? And another one here. Very, very simple. And while all that lot is still wet, it's now back to my 3/4 inch flat brush and ultramarine blue with the tiniest touch of burnt sienna in and lots of water. What I'm doing, go across here. See, a lot of water into that. Leaving some white bits showing through. Because like I said, snow is not just white. Get the blue of the sky in it as well. Treat it like water almost. More water into that same brush now. Bring that across. There. Now I just need to let that dry for 2 or 3 minutes, because then I'm into the foreground stuff. Now everything's more or less dried here, so back to my rigger brush, my number 4 rigger brush. Again, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. I said there were very few colours in this one, didn't I? Hookers, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, just about black. Look, there you go. There. Nice and strong and dark. There. A little bit of water into that. And I've just splashed my face. And this is for this big tree here, or 2 big trees here in the foreground. Coming in, leaving a little bit of white showing to the left. And now you know that if you wanted light in there, white in there, you could wash it out again. But I just left it when I painted it. Wiggly twigs. Gosh, that's a loud light aircraft just going over. A few bits coming out of the side here. Squiggle it about a bit. Squiggle it about. Squiggle your brush about. And now that little bit of white that I left on the left hand side shows up better. And I am fiddling about with a few more twigs in this because it's a lot closer. But even so, I'm not going to paint every single one because there's nowhere near enough on there for the canopy of a winter tree. So it's back to this technique with my round brush, still with the same colour, just about black, my round brush number 8, and get that mix on my brush like so, wipe off a little bit of surplus. Now just put it on and drag it downwards. Look. So easy. Now back to my round brush. All this is still wet, and it's this hedge here. Just dabbing on like so. And I want it bumpy on top and bumpy on the bottom where it meets the ground, because we're going to have snow going up to that. So have a bumpy bottom. Some of us have no choice. Bit there. Now everything's getting that much closer because everything's darker. And you notice I haven't dipped in again. That was all with the first dip of the mix. That just shows how much water and paint these brushes will hold. But I shall dip in again now for this side. And again, have a bumpy bottom. And again, you'll notice I haven't dipped in. All done with the same dip. Into a little bit of burnt sienna now. Just burnt sienna. I want a few bits of that in there. A bit stronger actually, it's better. Just a few dabs. This is just like I did in the distance, but again, a little bit stronger with the mix. And it just warms up ever so slightly, adds a little bit more interest with having a bit of burnt sienna in there. It's hardly noticeable, but just changes the overall effect slightly. Now, still with the nearly black, and back, and still with my number 8 round brush, the gate look. I'll have a stick there, another stick there, one there, and some coming across. There, how easy is that? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to, before I start with the snow on this side and the foreground, I want to whack the path in first so that can be drying. So I've got a little bit of raw sienna here. And all I'm doing, look, just going across from side to side. I'll be darkening this off, don't panic. Don't panic. Now, a little bit of that going across there as well. See, I've created the path very faintly in the distance, just with a ribbon of paint. Now, I'm just laughing here a bit to myself because I'm just getting told off for stepping on the microphone cable. So, what I'm going to do now, if that's all right, Gail, is put a little bit of raw umber on top of there, here and there. Just a few touches, look. There. And now I'll leave that alone for a while. In the meantime, I can come over here with the snow. So again, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Plenty of water into this. And I don't want it as dark as that. But mainly blue. And plenty of water. All I'm doing, look, a few wobbly bits. wobbly bits. There's another technical term for you. Well, that's ultramarine blue with a little bit of burnt sienna into it. And now a little bit more blue. And coming down here. And a few bits down here. Now, back to just the wet brush. Pick it up, move it around, soften it around a little bit. Don't have it all flat and straight. Look, wobble it about a little bit. Get a bit of bumpiness into the land. Now I'm going to darken that slightly. A bit more burnt sienna into the mix. See, it's darker. And coming down here, up to the edge of the path. Sorry, path. Excuse me, it's a path. And coming up there. A few little bumpy bits in here. Bit of that dark again over here. And there. And again, clean damp brush. Soften. This is just with a damp brush. Now, I'm just checking around to see if I need to soften any more edges, like those, there. Now, darken that a lot. Ultramarine blue and burnt sienna again. There. Plenty of water into it. And I want to put this where where the sides meet the path. So it's a nice sharp edge there, look. Like so. That's very sharp and very hard and very dark at the minute. Now, just with a clean damp brush now, all I'm going to do is pick up the base of that and pull it into the path. Like so. And a little bit of that here as well. And finally, a little bit of shadow from that big tree. Ultramarine blue and burnt sienna again. When I say finally, I might put a few tufts of grass in there actually. There. Shadow there. Coming across like so. Like I said, tufts here and there. And for that, I'm going to use raw sienna and burnt sienna mixed. And just again with my 3/4 inch flat, but I'm going to split the brush, look, like that, and just tap on here and there. Just with a split brush. Now, flick upwards. And again, a couple of flicks there. So stipple it on, then drag it up. All with a split brush. Do I need a touch of green on there? Yeah, a tiny touch of hooker's green and burnt sienna mixed. But again, with a split brush. Yeah, that's better. That will do. Don't fiddle about, Evans. Don't fiddle about. That is more or less that. Unless I put some birds in. I'm making my mind up here as I go along. I'm going to have a few birds coming from the distance with my rigger brush again, and it's ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Have those here. There. All I need to do now is take the tape off. And there we do. Sorry. And there we go. Sorry, even. Finished. Very, very simple. Not too many colours. But big brushes, mainly, apart from the trees, with my rigger brush. Don't fiddle about. Just literally whack paint on and let it run and see what happens, and then change it as you want to. I've shown you how easily it is to actually take paint out, so you can change watercolours. The only brushes I've just used here are 4 brushes, which are the normal 4 that I always use for both acrylic and watercolours. My aquafine brushes, 1.5 inch flat, 3/4 inch flat, number 8 round, and a number 4 rigger. That's all I'm using. These are the aquafine paints. These are only £1.80 a tube on my website. That's the raw. But there's a couple more than that. But £1.80 a tube, and I think these are 19 quid for all of them. So, but you can get them individually as well. The paper I've just used, Langton Rough, and that comes in various sizes. These are what we saw on the website. That's the small pad and the slightly bigger pad there. But very good paper. A4 and A3 those. And as I said, you can paint on both sides, so there's no wrong side to paint on. There's a couple of good watercolour books, if you're just starting especially. I mean, there's plenty of books on my website, charlesevans.com. The pocket book, that's a must for so many people. They keep it in the paint box all the time. And the first ever book that I made, about 28, 29 years ago, that, and you'll see that it is that old by the photographs of me inside it. But there's a lot of little simple projects to do, and you don't have to worry about them because, as I said, they are for beginners. So have a go, have a look on the website, and I'll see you soon. Bye.